coffee tastes so good again. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Sherry. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you couldn't hear, I have a new little member of the family. So as you can tell from the title, I'm going to be talking about my labor and delivery story as long as she stays asleep. If she doesn't, I might have to feed her. But I wanted to do this video. I wanted to make this story. I wanted to make this video especially because I'm about 3 weeks postpartum. And I wanted to make this video before I really not forget the details, but I know eventually some of the details start to fade away. So since it's still fresh in my head, I wanted to tell you guys about my labor and delivery experience. I'm so excited to have this video finally be going up because I made it to the other side, guys. I made it through labor and delivery. My experience was overall positive, so I wanted to share what it was like. It was Thursday evening. I was exactly 39 weeks on that Thursday. So I was starting to have some contractions start in the evening. I would say around 10:30 p.m. is really when things started to kickstart. At the time I thought it was just Braxton Hicks again, but really it was the start of my labor. It was very inconsistent, but progressing. It wasn't really going away too much. So, at that time we were basically ready for bed. So I think we went to bed around 11:30, something like that, our typical bedtime. And I woke up at 2:30 a.m. in pain. It felt like really bad period cramps. It's essentially what contractions feel like, especially in the beginning. It feels like really bad period cramps. So I was definitely cramping. I got up and it was enough to wake me up, and I was like, I think this is it. So out of wanting to be prepared, I got up. I actually showered. I washed my hair because I didn't want to look jank, but in reality I kind of looked jank anyway. My hair ended up in a bun, but I wanted to take a shower and make my hair look good and throw on some concealer and mascara or whatever. What, not even mascara. I think I just filled in my eyebrows, put on concealer, and was cool with that. So I did that, and then I didn't wake Sean up until about 3 a.m. and at this point, in the shower, I was feeling contractions. They weren't going away. So I was starting to time them, and they were about 5 minutes apart, which seems pretty close together. So I thought, I had no idea how much I was dilated at this point because of my other appointments. I was only half a centimeter dilated, and I just wasn't, progressing in that way. But my contractions were not going away. So I woke Sean up around 3 a.m., told him I'm having contractions, I'm timing them. They're about 5 minutes apart, and so he started to get ready. He started to, get his things together. We started to get our things ready, our suitcases. He had a duffel bag. We wanted to feed the dog, let him out, kind of take care of some things. So we didn't get to the hospital till about 4 a.m. and at that point we had to go in through the emergency room entrance because it was in the middle of the night. So we couldn't go through the main building entrance. So we went through the emergency room. They got us in there pretty quickly, and they take you to triage, which is basically a room where they check if you're dilated. You would wait there until you would be admitted, if you would be admitted. So we got checked into the triage area, and yeah, it was pretty uncomfortable. I was definitely in some pain. Those contractions were definitely strong, not very pleasant, but I could still breathe through them okay. I was able to use the breathing techniques. Those really helped in the beginning. So I definitely recommend doing a class, being prepared, get your breathing techniques down, because that's honestly going to be one of the only things that are going to help you if you're not doing an epidural right away. So my whole plan was to do natural birth. When I say natural, I mean unmedicated, nothing to help me, no interference, nothing. I just wanted to push my baby out, and if I needed the epidural or a C-section, I would be in the right place to have it done. So that was my plan. Just wanted to do unmedicated, see what I could do, and I wanted to feel everything. So that was the route I wanted to take. I made that known to, the nurses and stuff. So they checked me, and I was only about 2 centimeters dilated. So at that point, they sent me home. I stayed there for maybe 2 hours. They checked me again, wasn't dilated. So they were like, labor at home, come back when when your contractions are stronger, or your water breaks, whatever. So we went home, and I actually had an OB appointment that same morning. So I went to my OB. At this point, I was in a lot of pain. So I was actually, still contracting this whole time. They never went away. Like, some people's contractions go away, come back. Mine never went away, so I was still technically in labor. But we went to my OB appointment. Obviously, my husband, sorry, my baby's tooting. My husband drove me around, that whole day. But she checked me, and she said, do you want to do a membrane sweep? And I said, what is that? And she said, basically, it helps kickstart the cervix to trigger dilating. So it was very, very painful. Let me warn you, if you get a membrane sweep done, it's like getting your cervix checked, only a lot more painful. Like, she's in there, you're in there longer with her fingers. It really is uncomfortable. I was basically writhing in pain the whole time she was doing it, but she said she got me to a 3.5, so I was 3.5 centimeters dilated after the membrane sweep. Awesome. So I left to go back home and labor, and I would say maybe around 2 p.m. I went home to try to take a nap, and I napped for maybe an hour because I woke up at 2:30 a.m. and I hadn't slept since because I was in pain. So I tried to get some sleep, which I was luckily able to get about an hour, I would say. And then I woke up again in serious pain, the worst cramping imaginable. And at this point, I'm like, I must be progressing so fast because these contractions are so close together. Again, 2 minutes apart. And, so painful, where I had to just crawl on the floor and just get through the contraction every time. It was just getting worse and worse. So much more painful every time. So I called again, I believe around 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Talked to a nurse, told her, hey, my contractions are getting even worse. They're close together. We've been timing them. They haven't really stopped since I started. And at first she was directing me to a hospital that was an hour away. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Because my hospital is 5 minutes from me. She thought I was 36 weeks pregnant. So she didn't check my chart. She called me back. She said, I'm so sorry. We direct people who aren't full term to a different hospital. Yeah, you're 39 weeks. Go to the hospital. So a little bit irritating, but jumping forward, they actually apologized that happened because we were freaking out. So I was at that point, I could not think of sitting in a car for an hour. That's how much pain I was in. I, at this point, was in labor for 13 hours, 14 hours maybe. And so around 5 p.m. we went back to the hospital. So we went in through the main entrance because, it was during the day, and we went back into triage. We're there for super long. I guess there wasn't any rooms available for a while, so we were in triage for a very long time. It was excruciating pain. I was just in agony at that point. my husband was looking at, the screen where you can see your contractions going up and down as they come and go. And he could see like the peak of it. And at the peak, I'm like screaming. And he would remind me, breathe through it. And I had to be reminded, because if you don't breathe, you're like screaming in pain. So at this point, they talked to me about getting the epidural, and I still, was saying I don't want it. I want to just keep going. They checked me again. I think I was like 5 centimeters dilated, progressing very slowly, which is crazy because I was contracting so often. So anyway, I was in triage for hours, and then finally they said, okay, we're gonna admit you because you are progressing. So at this point, it's gonna be happening, obviously, eventually. So finally got me up to the room, got me, into the bed. And at this point, contractions were just so much worse. So, I've been almost contracting for an entire day. At this point, it was like 9 p.m. at night. I'm starving, by the way, because at that point, once you're admitted, you're on liquids. Like, once they admit you, you can't eat. I wasn't even eating in triage. I think once you get there, you're basically done. And before we left, I had like a few bites of pizza, and because I was in such pain, I couldn't even eat. Like, it's so bad. Like, I was starving. Like, so hungry, and I was just hydrating as much as possible, sipping on water constantly, because I felt like my mouth was very dry, and I don't know if that was from like the fluids or the hospital environment. I felt very dry, so I needed water constantly. So yeah, I was basically stuck in the bed the whole time because I was in that much pain. I didn't use like any of their stuff that they had, like the ball or the shower or like the peanut thing. I didn't try different positions. I didn't really get to that point, and I'll get there. So I was just laying back, gripping. I was like holding on to the side of the bed, like the bars, every time I was contracting at this point, gripping it for dear life, like I'm on like a roller coaster, and going, yeah! It was so bad. So they checked me again. I was about 6 centimeters dilated. And at this point, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm only 6 centimeters dilated. It's been an entire full day. We're almost like creeping up on 24 hours here. Like, I'm freaking out because it's only going to get worse. So at this point, I was really weighing my options. Do I get the epidural? And I kept going back and forth. I didn't want to, make the wrong decision. And, I felt like I was putting some pressure on myself to do this whole thing unmedicated, because that was my plan. My plan was to do it unmedicated, and I wanted to really do it. But I was really proud of myself because up until this point, and it was like 22 hours of labor unmedicated, just feeling everything, I was like, you know what? I did all this, and I made it this far. I deserve to have a little bit of relief in order to do this in a way that was not, just ridiculously painful and traumatizing. Like, that's the thing. I didn't want to be traumatized. So I said, okay, I need the epidural. Like, I made that decision. There was like one contraction that just put me over the edge, and I was like, I need it. Like, this, I want it to happen. So they bring in the anesthesiologist. She goes over everything, if you have any questions, any side effects, all that stuff. There's some scary things that could happen, but overall it's usually safe. But anytime they give you something you've never had before, it's a little scary because you could have an adverse reaction, an allergic reaction. Your blood pressure could drop. That's one thing. Your baby's blood pressure could drop, and that could put you in a dangerous category of needing a C-section if something were to happen. So, a little bit scary, but I listened to everything. I asked questions, and then when it came time to it, they basically have you sit on the edge of the bed, nice and seated, legs dangling. You want your legs back, like your back of your knees touching the edge of the bed. And then you want to like round your shoulders over, you push your back out to the anesthesiologist, and you basically hug a pillow. And the nurse comes over, she holds you so you stay still because, you know, you're going to keep contracting while you're getting this thing put in, which is a little bit daunting, but I feel like I was so zoned in on, you know, this is happening. You just focus and you bear through the pain, you get through it. My husband was right there, you know, for support. He was there the whole time. He was just so amazing. He was just the best coach I could have ever had giving birth. So, so she, you know, first puts the numbing agent in, which felt like kind of like a pinch and pressure. It's weird. It feels like there's like a pocket being poked inside of your back. And then when they feed the tiny, I'm not farting, I swear, it's her. When they feed the catheter in, it's like a tiniest little tube. It feels very weird. Very weird. I would say it just feels weird and uncomfortable, but not painful. And then once it's in, you don't really feel it at all. And then they run like a test dose through to see how it is, and yeah, it like feels cold or whatever, and then you get like a weird taste in your mouth. So at first I was good, and then all of a sudden I started to kind of doze out, and I felt like I was passing out. So I told them, hey, I don't really feel that good. I'm getting a little dizzy. So they checked my blood pressure, and it was down, like real low, like weird, like bad levels low. And the baby was fine. Baby's blood pressure was fine. Baby was thriving, still doing great. I was a little bit woozy. So they had to really like turn me on my side. And then, you know, they gave me something that actually compensates the epidural medicine to bring up your blood pressure again. So they had to do that twice because it happened twice. My blood pressure dropped. So once that happened, everything seemed to start to regulate, but that was a little bit scary. Sean said, you know, I kept trying to close my eyes and doze off, which was a little bit scary. That was like passing out. But then they were able to get my blood pressure up again. I was sipping water and I was doing okay. I was laying on my side, and then I fell asleep, and then all of the numbing was only on my left side. I woke up and literally my whole entire left side of my, like from the torso down, left side of my body was numb, just like numb. And I could kind of feel like feeling in my right side. So they said that happens when you're on one side or the other. All the numbing stuff's gonna be on that side. I'm like, well, I wish you would have told me that. But if I was upright, I was going, you know, I was passing out. So it is what it is. And then at that point, when I woke up, I felt my water break. So I felt this gush, and it was just the weirdest feeling, this gush. Apparently some meconium came out, so that means that the baby pooped while in utero, which isn't always a bad thing. It's just they could inhale it when they come out. So, you know, if that happens, they have to just monitor the baby and make sure everything's good. But yeah, so my water broke. I told them that when they came back in. It was literally like 5 minutes later they came in. I was like, my water just broke. I felt it. And they're like, great. So they checked me. I was 9 centimeters dilated, progressed a lot. So at that point we were getting ready. Like my doctor was there, and it's so amazing because the doctor that I saw the most throughout my entire pregnancy was the one who was going to deliver my baby. So I was feeling so happy. She made me feel really comfortable. She's awesome. I love her so much. So everything was just falling into place. And at that point I felt good. You know, I felt like I could really give it my all because I was able to, you know, have a little bit of a break from all those painful contractions. The epidural at that point was the right thing for me to do personally. I did not feel, you know, like I didn't do what I wanted to do or like defeated at all, because at that point, like, you are just a warrior. Like, you go through so much, and then at that point you just want to push your baby out. So they got me all geared up. Everyone got ready. There was kind of a lot of people in the room. There was like a resident, a girl in training, and yeah, so they all gathered around looking at my hoo-ha. So one nurse had my leg up and my husband had my other leg up. So it came time to push. It took about 40 minutes. Pushing felt kind of weird. So it really does sting. And this might have been because I was feeling it, because half of the epidural at that point had worn off on my one side. So I felt a lot of it, which is good because they were able to tell me, okay, stop pushing. I listened to everything they said. They would put like a damp cloth down there on my perineum. I felt her do the massages while I was pushing. They told me I was doing fantastic. So with every time I was pushing, progress was happening. You know, sometimes the baby goes back and forth. A couple of times they said that's normal. But overall, she was, you know, very slowly. Well, no, I guess it wasn't slow because 40 minutes can be quick for some people, but she was progressing down the canal at a great rate. So eventually, you know, when they saw the head crowning, that's the worst part because it really does sting. I wouldn't say it's a burning sensation. For me, it was more of just like a painful sting. Just felt like a stretching, like if you know, were to feel something stretch to its max, that's the kind of tension pain, stinging pain you would feel. So that was the hardest part, was to, you know, breathe through the stinging because, you know, her head would still be there that whole time until you keep pushing it more and more. And then once her head was out, it didn't take very much. I pushed a few more times and her whole body came out. And it was just the most incredible, amazing experience. It gets me emotional because it's just, there's nothing like it. It's like straight out of a movie or a dream. You just are overwhelmed with so much joy and love for your child, and you see her or him. It was a girl, by the way. I had a girl. I don't think I even mentioned that. I had a little baby girl, and my husband announced it, and he cut the cord, and they put her on your chest, and it's just crazy. And there's not really a lot of like gunk or liquid really that you expect there to be. But they have you have a moment until, you know, they kind of take her over to clean her up. Gives you a chance to push your placenta out, which felt like absolutely nothing. It took literally nothing to push my placenta out. They showed it to me. Insane. Like, that thing is insane looking. And then they push on your abdominal area to push blood out. They make sure all the placenta pieces are out. I still had some inside, and they actually did like a little bit of an ultrasound to make sure all the pieces were out, because that could cause an infection. So the fundal massages were not pleasant at all, very painful, but it doesn't last that long. And then once they're done, you know, cleaning up the baby, then they bring the baby over and you can start nursing. And she latched so well right away. It was incredible. She's just a champ. So that was just such a special moment. You do like that skin to skin. And then, you know, the dad gets a chance to do skin to skin with the baby. And then at that point, you know, I can start eating. I was so hungry. I wanted just food right away because I was starving at that point. So it was just incredible. I was only in the hospital for about one day because I gave birth to her at 5:50 a.m. So I was given the epidural at midnight and I gave birth to her at 5:50 a.m. So I had the epidural for about 5 hours and then I had her. And then we spent that whole day there and then the night, and then we went home that next day. This is my baby. Her name is Sienna. So overall, my experience was very positive. It's true, the labor is the worst part. It's very painful. I'm not going to say it wasn't, and I'm not going to say that it's not going to suck the next time around. But you get through it. Like, that's the thing. I kept telling myself, I just want to make it to the other side of this. I just want to get through this and have my baby in my arms. And I just want to get through this painful, painful experience. But it really is worth it. Like, it's crazy. Like, after everything's all said and done and you have your child, it's like you feel awesome. Like, you feel like you just accomplished the most amazing thing in the entire world. And, you know, my husband was like so sweet. He was like, I can't believe like you did that. You're so strong. You know, he was just in awe of like what the female body is capable of. I wanted to mention I did not tear at all. I had like a slight laceration on the inside, but nothing that warranted stitches. So that came true. I didn't want to tear at all, and I didn't. So yeah, you just go through like some bleeding afterwards, postpartum bleeding. But yeah, no stitches to take care of or anything. So it's true. You can give birth and not tear, because I didn't, and that was just awesome. I couldn't believe when they said, yeah, there's no stitches that need to be done, like you didn't tear. So my nether regions didn't actually look that bad afterwards. I took a look, and everything goes back to basically normal, you know? So I wouldn't worry about it. And I don't know if I pooped, because my husband said like they had like a bucket underneath while you're giving birth, so like anything that were to happen, like it just must be so quick. So I don't know, I could have. I definitely had a hemorrhoid afterwards, which was like the worst part to deal with postpartum. But other than that, it was amazing, and that was my experience. And I hope this helps someone if you are pregnant, first time, or you just wanted to hear a good experience about birth. It's not easy. It is painful. It's a lot of work, but you're gonna get through it. And however you have your baby safely, you know, for you and baby, is the right way to do it. And don't let anyone tell you how to give birth, because you need to decide for yourself how you're gonna give birth. So just listen to your body, listen to your gut, just, you know, keep an open mind. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it informative and entertaining, fun to watch. I will definitely have more videos to come. I can't wait to film more mom videos. I want to film a postpartum video talking about that experience. I'm about 3 weeks postpartum, if I didn't mention that already. Breastfeeding, I want to talk about that. And so I have other content coming up, and I also want to get back to my old content as well. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and until I see you in my next video.